Scotty. You're not. Welcome back to the road. Halloween Horror Month. We're on day 5. 5! Halle. 5 of Halloween Horror Month. We're going to talk about an episode of The Nightmare Room today. Did you talk about all those? No. Missed one. Now I'm able to talk about it. Anyway, we gotta put our thing on the thing. It's gonna be such a good thing. We gotta add to our background. So we got the Stranger Things VHS box set for the Blu-ray and DVDs that came out now. The Target thing. That right here. So like I said, yes, I did review a bunch of Nightmare Room episodes back a few years ago now, back when I was still recording in there. But in the bedroom, not the bathroom, the bedroom. But yeah, and I reviewed the first 11 episodes, and I couldn't do the last 2, which is a 2-parter, Camp Nowhere, because they never had one of the parts. See, at that time on YouTube, it's a 2-parter that was also in 2 parts. So you had part 1 and part 2 of part 1, part 1 and part 2 of part 2. But one part was missing from part 1, so I wasn't able to watch it till now, because both episodes are now available on YouTube to watch. I almost bought the DVDs for this to watch it, but... And this is one I sort of watched back in the day. I had My Name is Evil on a VHS that I recorded, and there was School Spirit was an episode that I had on VHS too. But this is one, I don't think I ever recorded it. I might have. But I only seen the first part. Never saw a conclusion to this. But I remember one actor, and then later, after looking through the cast list, there's more than one actor in this that I recognize. One cameo that makes no sense, because she's not in any of the other rest of the parts of the episodes. It makes no sense. We'll get there. But you might not be surprised to find out this episode takes place at a camp. Yes, and we have our main characters, Russell. No, not Russell from Bully. No, Russell, played by Sam Jones III, Pete from Supernatural, and he's a bit of a scaredy cat, you know. And so he's picked on by some other students. One of them, Dave, whose actor I do not know, but Dave is a dick. And specifically, they wrote him to be a dick. I don't get the writing for this character, because we get well into the second part where things have gone to shit. People are trying to tell them what's going on, and he's still not believing it. It's like they said, oh, we have to write this character as the non-believer. But you don't need to write him as a non-believer to the point that it doesn't make any sense anymore. Because we get to the explanation of the ghosts later, and he's like, oh yeah, sure. I'm like, dude, all this proof around you still... Whatever. But also with them is Charlotte, who is played by Allison Mack from Smallville. Yes. And then there is Erin, who's sort of just in the background at the beginning. She's played by Kathy Wagner, who I know as the other girl that Kevin Arnold had a thing with in season 1 when it wasn't Winnie. He's a girl he had a crush on. She's a girl he had a crush on. She was in 2 episodes. I don't think she was the one that he was with, because there's a whole thing in there where he's dating this one girl only because he can't be with Winnie. I don't think it's her, but I do remember her in one of the episodes, a couple of episodes, so yeah. And they're at this camp where there's some kind of ghost legend. And we are told this by Ramos, who's played by Tommy Doggins. Brandon Quinn, Tommy Dawkins. A year after the show went kaputski, he's here playing Ramos. And he proclaims to be the descendant of the Ontonago tribe. This man is the whitest white man to ever be a white man. I don't know what they mean. Apparently in the book, Ramos is Native American, but they cast a white dude to play that role. Also, apparently, in the book, Russell and Dave's races are swapped, because Dave is the African American in the book, and Russell is white, but they swapped it. Probably because Russell is the main character, and, you know, Sam's the bigger actor of the two, so makes sense. This is also directed by James Marshall, which, with the casting, makes sense. I think these were filmed in Canada. James Marshall filmed episodes of Smallville, so why not bring in those two? Makes sense, right? Ramos tells the story of a curse placed on the land by the Ontonaga tribe many, many moons ago. And there's this particular cabin that if someone goes there, they will go missing, blah, blah, blah. And our 4 seniors, apparently there was a 5th one in the book, but I don't know. 4 seniors are going to go to stay in this cabin. So, I enjoy this episodes, whatever, 2-parters. There are some issues. So, at one point they bring up someone named Scott Murphy, who went on the trip and was one of the kids that disappeared at the cabin. Other than his name written somewhere in the cabin, that never comes back. There's a character that shows up when they get to the ghost camp. You think it's going to be Scott Murphy, but it's not. Apparently Scott Murphy is the name of a writer on the Nightmare Room. Cool. But that's a nice Easter egg. But I need more. There's also the chiseled writing on the cabin floor. Because that night they go to bed. By the way, Ramos sleeps in the boys' cabin. Camp counselors don't usually sleep in the same cabins as the campers. There he is. He's on the bottom bunk underneath Russell there, and he's like, "Oh, Russell, if you don't want to go, you don't have to go. If you're too scared, whatever." And then he's got this look on his face like he's unsure, like it's all fake, whatever. They wake up. Someone chiseled, "You will never return," with a line underlined on never. And it's like, well, what happened? It's chiseled, like with a chisel? No, with a sandwich. What do you think they used? And someone correctly says, well, if they did that, it would wake one of us up, right? Someone would hear it. Yeah, and this is never explained. Like, there's some other stuff that happens that is explained away as Ramos is messing with them. But how could he mess with them with this? Well, I tried to rewatch the scene to see if there was something covering where the bed is. Like there was a blanket or something, and that was already there. But no, and you think if it was, someone, well, what happened to the blanket that was there? I don't know. It's just weird. This is never explained. Was it the ghosts? That doesn't make any sense either. I don't know. So, we're still in part 1, by the way. So, they hike to the cabin, and they get there, and they go in. Ramos stays behind. They go in, and they find the names written on the wall there. Scott Murphy is one of them. Another one is Rossi. Something Rossi. That is a character from 2 episodes of this show. Full Moon Fever and School Spirit. Yeah, he's the jock guy in those episodes. So, but now here, so then they hear Ramos screaming for help, and when they run out, they find his walking stick, and his shirt is torn up. And if I was there with my knowledge of horror movies, I'd be like, nah, bullshit. Bullshit. His shirt's torn up and there's no blood? And somebody like, hey, this is a kid's show. I don't care. His shirt's torn up. If there's no blood, that means he's absolutely fine. Okay? He's obviously messing with them. So they go back to the cabin. And they stay in the cabin for the night with Russell and Charlotte staying up to keep watch, but then they fall asleep. Anyway, there are little things in here throughout these episodes that just feel like this is a 2-part episode, so we need to stretch a little bit. This scene could have been taken out. They wake up the next morning and they find written on the back of the door, so like run away now or something. So they run out and they find that Ramos just left a bucket of paint by the tree. Why would you just leave it there? If you're trying to freak someone out, why would you leave that paint? That doesn't make any sense. They're like, oh, he's messing with us, so we'll mess with him. So they go back and they mess up the cabin and they paint more words. They're ours now or something like that. They belong to us now or something. So then Ramos shows up with Topanga in the only appearance she has in this entire 2-part episode. I'm serious. She wasn't in the opening part. She's not in the second part. She's just here. And it makes no sense. Like, they're there, they show up, they see a thing, they freak out, and they run off to try to find help. Bye, Topanga, nice to see you. Why was she here? The only thing I can think of is that she was in more of the episode, and they had to cut it out for time, but she's never mentioned again or seen again. And they couldn't bring Brandon Quinn back to reshoot the episode with him by himself, or reshoot the scene with him by himself, so I don't know. And they high five, Russell and Drew high five for this, and magically they're transported somewhere else where there's TPs for some reason, and those are not explained either. They're just there. The camp looks different, and they find another camp where people look similar with the same shirts as theirs, and when the kids there find them, they run around them screaming, "Ghost! Ghost! 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 Ghost!" and the episode ends. Now imagine you're me in 2002, and you had this. I don't even think I think the tape that I had. Either the tape stopped recording because it ran out of tape, or I had to leave and couldn't keep it recording. I did that before, where I was recording, not timing the recording, but just recording, and let it record in the channel. So there was tapes where it just kept recording the channel afterwards, which resulted in confusion years later when I tried to watch. Like, what was I doing? I must have fallen asleep, or I must have left. Because there were times I'm recording something, I fall asleep. So, yeah. But yeah. But now we get to part 2. Turns out we get Uncle Brian, and right away I went, so Uncle Brian, you mean like Uncle Larry? Or not Larry, that was the other Uncle whatever his name is from Welcome to Camp Nightmare, the Goosebumps episode, or the Goosebumps book. The Goosebumps book. Larry was the jerk in there, but it's Uncle, I'll tell Uncle Bob, I don't know. There's no Uncle Bob, remember? We did the Ghastly Grinner. Anyway, apparently a ghost is what they say when they have intruders in their camp. And they're like, wait, we go to this camp, Camp Hardwick or whatever, but a different one. Oh, you mean the one that's miles the other way? Oh, that's our sister camp. They never say anything about this camp. Oh, it's fine. And everyone starts acting very strange. And there's specifically one kid with the glasses who is very concerned. He tries to tell them, no, you guys need to go. But before he's stopped by Uncle Brian and these other dudes. In this whole episode, Uncle Brian and these other dudes are very much evil. It seems like they trying to stop Drew from telling the truth and not keep that kid. Yeah. So this kid, you think, okay, that's Scott Murphy, right? His name is Drew. And I'm watching this and I'm going, but what about Scott Murphy? Because, like, they never bring it up again after part one. And it's like, wouldn't it make much more sense if this kid was Scott Murphy? Right? But I guess he has to be one of the kids that are there. I don't know. Again, there's a whole book that's somewhat different. Stop it. No yawn. I don't know. And I'm sitting here like, why can't he just tell them? Because if he tells them, it's going to shorten the episode. So every time he tries to tell them, he's stopped. Like, there's one time he tries to tell them and they all come up, ghost, 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 whatever. And then again, he tries to tell the girls what's going on. And he's stopped by the other guy. He's like, oh, Drew, he has a big imagination. And I'm like, but then when it's finally time to tell them, it's like, when they tell the story, I'm like, why couldn't Drew tell them? There's no reason why he can't tell them this story. Other than we need to stretch the episode. Fit the rest of this half hour. So anyways. They locked Drew in a barn for some reason. And Russell hears it. But then the other guy is... Hey, I'll give you a ride to the cabin. He's like, well, I heard screaming. You're not about it. There's no one in there. And like, then he goes to Uncle Brian's cabin, and he finds that the telephone is disconnected. And he talks to Frankie Muniz, which is another cameo that just doesn't make any sense. He's just there, but it makes more sense than Topanga. He's like, oh, basketball, like Wilt Chamberlain. Wait, huh? You know Michael Jordan? No, I know the popular guys like Wilt Chamberlain. Another ones. And he's like, who's the president? Lyndon Johnson. So it's the 60s. And mama, welcome to the 60s. Yeah. So, yeah. And again, Russell tries to tell them. The girls believe him, but Dave doesn't. Because Dave's got to be the disbeliever. And by this point, you think he would, there's another camp with the same name in a different part. And there's people, these kids are acting different. There's one kid that's trying to tell them something and he keeps getting taken away every time. Come on. And even after he says, oh, I believe he tells them that the phone was found, put from the wall. Dave just doesn't believe him. And it gets even more ridiculous. So he finds Drew. You're like, Drew's in here. And the girls believe him. He's like, nah, nope. Until Drew speaks up and I'm like, because he yells the first time and nothing happens. Then they yell again and Drew's like, I'm over here. And I'm like, why didn't you say something the fucking first time? Again, this stretched out to the point. Because, like, they could have went in there and said, is anyone in here? And Drew would have spoken up. But he doesn't. Because we need to stretch this episode out to an hour. If it wasn't an hour, we could, It's like the entire first part of this is a bunch of jump scares. There's really no stakes in that at all. This is where we get to the scary stuff. There's really no stakes in this either. So, they rescue him, and then but they're stopped immediately. Everyone just kind of files in. They're like, nope, put him back where he goes. And like, so that they put Drew they go to take Drew to be locked up again. But then they tell them the truth. So why lock up Drew then? If you were locking him up to stop him from telling them the truth, you're not going to tell them the truth. The Onondaga tribe, whatever they're called, lived on that land, and the settlers came in, took over the land, and so the Onondaga tribe put a curse on the land because they started damaging the land. I said land too many times. So that whoever comes to that land will be forced to stay there because they damaged the land. Even though I don't think these cameras had anything to do with that, but apparently they did. And he says, "Oh no, we made a deal with the Onondaga tribe that one day a year we get to come back and live here and enjoy the time, and then we get to go back once the day's over. And you guys are fine. You're not connected to this. You'll be able to leave once our time is up." And I'm like, why can't they just leave now? As long as you promise not to tell anyone. This signals the climax where Drew takes an axe to a tree, angering the spirits, because he doesn't want to be stuck there anymore. He doesn't care. He never wanted to go to camp. He was forced to by his parents. So he's just chopping the hell out of this tree. And so this is not the first time that this happens. But I do, I think, to stretch it out. Because at one point, I forgot to mention, when they wake up that morning, Dave's sleeping bag is being drugged down into a hole. Which I don't know if that was supposed to be a prank by Ramos or not. But the way that episode ends leads me to believe that no. Like the way that they show up and it's like, oh hey, I think that would go. I don't know. Again, much like the writing on the ground, it was chiseled. That doesn't make any much sense to me. But the whole time Russell's like, help him. And he's just standing there, help him. Well, girls are trying to help him, and here, the dude's chopping up the tree. The people have told them the story, and none of them run to stop him. Until Russell his balls finally drop, and he runs over and tackles Drew and grabs the axe. Did it work? Did that stop him? They're angry, and that's another thing. Is earlier when Ramos was telling the story, there was lightning and thunder or whatever, and even he doesn't know. They're like, how to do that? And even Ramos has look on his face like, how that happen? It makes I don't know. It's almost as if the Onondaga tribe was warning them. I don't know what the pulling the sleeping bag thing is, but I don't know. But yeah. So this is Anger the Onondaga tribe spirits. So everyone tries to run to the cabin. People disappear. The cabin disappears, and the kids run away. Except for Russell, who gets attacked by a vine. Which, there's another thing earlier where they're running, and he gets caught on a vine, and they block the door. And they do it again here. They're like, where's Russell? And he's caught on a vine, but the Onondaga tribe catches up to him, like a weird CGI shade thing, and say, you and your friends will be able to go. And the friends start to disappear. Because you tried to stop him. You are good. You and your friends will be able to live. And I'm like, they should be able to live anyway because they're not connected to the curse. But no, you gotta throw in because you tried to stop Drew. But so if he just stood there and didn't try to stop him, they would be cursed for no reason other than they didn't do anything. And why do all of them get to go free when it was only Russell who did it? Like, Dave should be cursed for not believing in anything. He should be cursed, and then the last line should be, you believe it now? They're fine. Everything's returned to normal. They met at the camp. Ramos is very upset. Like, what happened to you guys? He goes, And the little kid from earlier that Russ was talking to was like, was it scary? He hands him the little doll thing. It's like, nah, it's a piece of cake. Because they're not allowed to say anything, so Yeah, and these four kids will have to live with the secret of that land forever. Yes, and then Uncle Phil narrates. Uncle Phil, he's R.L.'s time, but it's Uncle Phil, the late James Avery, about the Nightmare Room. This is so usually at the end when there's the twist, they show flashbacks of the episode, and it connects to the ending and the twist and everything. They show flashbacks here, but it doesn't mean anything because there's no twist to this, unless I don't know. Like, the twist here could be they go back to camp and none of them can see them because they're actually now ghosts. They were free, but I don't know. It's only if they took out the "we're letting you go free" thing. Like, they just run back to the cabin and then they run back to the thing and no one can see them. They're ghosts. I don't know. But no, it's a nice ending, I guess. But, yeah. So it's not a bad episode. In terms of all these years finally being able to watch the whole thing, kind of a letdown. It's not really all that build for this. It's fine. It's fine. So, what are your thoughts on this episode? Leave a comment, so much like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.